Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another riveting episode of ADFARTECH Venture Podcast, and I'm your host, Sonar Shah. So, today I'm honored to introduce our distinguished guest, Steve Allouche, and he is the head of the product at KFC. He is leading the digital transformation and innovation in the food manufacturing, retail, and in-commerce. So, Steve, welcome to the podcast. And Steve, before we go into the intricacies of the product leaderships, innovation, and technology, please take a moment to introduce yourself, to our audience to get to know you better. So, Steve, could you share a bit about your journey and your role, please?
Absolutely. So I'm glad to be on. Thank you for inviting me. So basically, really quickly, so Steve Allouche, I'm the head of product for KFC. I've been in product management now for over 15 years. I don't come from a traditional product management background. I come from a strong supply chain and operational background. So I'm somebody who sort of started working in operations. I've had a passion for technology, and over the years, as organizations started moving to digital transformation, I ended up finding my heart in what today we call product management. So 20 years ago, I didn't say I want to be a product manager, but it is a field that I've fallen in love with that, now I sort of become part of my DNA.
Oh, great. So, thank you, Steve, for sharing your experience and insights as a head of the product at KFC. And we are really honored to have you today on ADFARTECH Venture Podcast. So, we are waiting for your listen the journey of yours in our podcast. So, before we start, I also wanted to thanks to you and to our incredible audience that because of their curiosity, we are making this podcast journey worthwhile. So in the next 30 minutes, we will explore the latest tech trends, tools, current projects, and get valuable insights from different tech leaders. So stay tuned for insightful conversations with the Steve Allouche. And Steve, if you permit me, just I also wanted to introduce our organization. So can I introduce?
Sure.
Yeah. So, as I said, this is the ADFARTECH Venture podcast. So, on behalf of ADFARTECH Venture, I would like to, invite you on this podcast platform. And if I say about the ADFARTECH Venture, we are IT tech platform, which we focus on majority of the IT solutions, IT resources, recruitments, and tech audio podcasts. And we have a vendor alliances with the 50 plus tech partners. It includes SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Pega, OutSystem, APN, Salesforce, Cloudera, Informatica, and many such more. And we also provide the key solutions. It includes ERP, application development, data, artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, managed services, and clouds, UX, UI, and the testing of these various kinds of cybersecurity. And the major skills which we have, that is, we have resources base of 20,000 plus across all the skills. So we can deliver, both on-site and offshore within the 24 hours. So that is our major capability. And with this podcast, we love to hear different views of the technology and different trends. And like yours also. So we are super, impressed by your bio, and we would just like to have today's discussions with you. So that is all about the ADFARTECH Venture, and I hope you are comfortable and ready to discuss the few of the technological trend at your organizations.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve, for giving us the opportunity to have the discussion. So, as we are starting the this podcast for the specific topic, as you have selected, the product leaderships. So, Steve, can you share a defining moment from your career where effective leadership has played, transformative role in the success of your product or any of your projects? So, how did your leadership approach impact the team dynamics?
I think it's not a defining moment for me in my career and leadership. It's been a journey. I think as a person, as a leader, and as a human over the last 20 years, I'm constantly evolving. I think the key part in my leadership journey is moving from that position where I have expertise in an industry and I'm trying to direct my vision, trying to move into into a position where it's asking the right questions and allowing people and teams to be accountable and have them make the recommendations, the decisions, and then to support them. So I think the defining moment for me in my career is probably at that point where I actually realized that I am a servant to my team and that my role is to actually represent them. And when they have a battle, that I'm on the front line with them. And when they're having hard times, I'm supporting them through that. So I think that's probably the defining moment. And it's very distinct when I think back. It was probably a time with one of my previous employers where I had a fairly large team. And then what I realized was when you've got 2 or 3 direct reports, and then when you start having more than 10 direct reports, you really have to change your leadership style. And really, I learned that success is trusting them and allowing them to make the right decisions and figuring out how to support them and give them the right level of coaching and guidance.
Yeah. So it's inspiring, to see how leadership style promotes various kinds of collaborations and align with the strategic goals. So thank you so much for, sharing this impactful moment. So, Steve, like as you said, you are a very particular and strategically you are, making the team efforts more. So what specific technical skills do you prioritize when recruiting the new talents, and how do these skills align with product's strategy and vision as an overall?
Yeah. So in terms of skills when recruiting,
Yeah.
this is probably, I'm going to be a little bit controversial. And the reason why I'm going to call this controversial is I recently spent a month in the Middle East and I did a lot of networking, spoke to a lot of organizations, a lot of people. And I realized the difference between something we do here in Australia and something in the Middle East. When it comes to recruiting here in Australia, I don't look for subject matter expertise or technical skills. I look for people that understand the craft of product management. And I think it's different, right? Whereas in the Middle East, if they're looking for product management, they want someone that has a specific skill set. So I'll give an example. In the Middle East, they want a product manager, and they would want a product manager who's worked in banking and running exactly the same app for another company. Whereas here in Australia, a lot of companies don't necessarily do that. I mean, some do, but most of the time they look at people that have product competency. So people who can actually understand product management as a craft, they know how to make database decisions, that know how to do from stakeholder management, and that they know how to execute. So instead of looking at specific skill sets here in Australia, what we try to look at is individuals, and we try to understand what is the level of influence that they are able to have in an organization and what is the level of impact. And the questions we ask, a lot of the questions that I personally ask in the interview process is to try to understand where they sit on that spectrum. So someone who's fairly junior in their career would be able to influence and impact their direct peers, people at the same level. The more senior they become, they can start influencing senior leadership, cross-functional teams, global teams, and then sort of the metrics start to change as well. So I focus more on that rather than with technical, like hard technical skills. I think what's more important is to understand product management. And I truly believe that a strong product manager is able to move any sort of portfolio in any technology stack, become an expert and master it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I quite appreciate your effort. So align with your product strategy as well as the product management in line with the success of the product as well as the organization. That's a wonderful approach you are taking over. So, Steve, given your innovative role in this transformation of a technological ecosystem, so could you provide insights in the current technologies that you employ in the restaurant product management processes?
I will give insight. It would probably be really high level, but sort of just give it enough of an understanding for the audience. Just a funny story. We talk about technology in KFC. I tend to find myself in a number of events, and one of the things that I notice happens whenever I talk to people. They say, "Where are you from?" And then when they find out I'm from KFC, they get really excited. But then they say to me, "Oh, so like, what is product management at KFC? Is it just the app, or the app and the website?" And I always find it amusing because it's a huge misconception. Yes, the app and the website is a product at KFC, but it's actually a very small fraction of the overall technology stack. So when you look at an organization of a large QSR that's got global outreach, the technologies, you've got to look at the entire supply chain, everything from planning, pricing, to forecasting, inventory management, and then the technologies that support operations into the store. And then you've got the allowing the customer to transact. So the technology stack is actually quite large. There's so many moving parts and there's so many products that need to be managed. I think the thing that's sort of the big topics for us at the moment really about how we move into sort of automation, operational automation. How do we start looking at innovation? For example, there's decisions. Do we want the customer to be talking to a human all the time, or do we want to bring in things like voice bot ordering? How do we bring a personalized experience, for example, into the drive-through? So there's a lot of things that we talk about conceptually, but I think the key theme in terms of the future for us is, how do we take all these fragmented and individual technologies that exist in the restaurant today, and then how do we start bringing them together and allow them to start sharing data and working in harmony? So without getting into the deliverables, it really is about moving from a fragmented system into a connected environment, because then that opens up a pathway for really intelligent decision-making capabilities.
Right. So, it's a wonderful to know about we also, like being a, common people, we also understood that technologies nowadays there are so many other platforms are also available. So they are serving on the, just a click away. So we also think that way only, that, the restaurants organizations have a technology particular to their apps only or through their websites only. But listening about your perspective and the way transparently you would share, it's really wonderful, and appreciates your efforts for changing this specific word at app only. So thank you so much, Steve. So Steve, looking ahead, can you please share any details that, next technological project in line with product strategy, or is there any specific technologies or innovations that you are excited about to implement in the near future?
I think it's a tough question. I think I can't get into the technologies specifically, just due to sensitivities and sort of where we're at into the market. But I think what I can talk about is some of the technologies that we've implemented in sort of the last 12 months, because we've created the foundation, and then we now it's about moving that to sort of into the future. But I mean, some of the things that we've done, that we've been working on, is sort of changing, for example, in our drive-through, our menu board experience. So this is very foundational pieces of work. Like, how do we move from paper based menu boards to digital menu boards, but then how do we start automating the content creation process? How do we start moving into more by changing the way we create content? It allows us to start building a foundation to manipulate that information. So a lot of the future is about how do we start evolving that and sort of creating some really cool content and campaigns through that particular channel. So, and then the other part is, I think I touched on in my previous answer, we have a lot of good technology in our restaurants today, especially here in Australia. You can go to a restaurant, you see some really good technology, but for us now, it's about moving to the next phase. And that phase is how do we bring it all together? And because we generally believe that if you've got systems working in isolation, by bringing them together, you can actually increase the value, increase the benefits that you get from that particular asset and that particular piece of software. So that's sort of the things to talk about. Sorry, I can't get into specific details. I would love to. I was in one of the team stand-ups today, and there's a lot of really cool and exciting things that we're working on. But unfortunately, it just sort of, I can't get into the details at the moment. But I'm happy to share some more once we release some of these products and they become a bit more public. But yeah, we'd have to defer that part.
Thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into this, exciting technological projects, as well as what you are thinking in terms of innovations, and that all are really good. So, Steve, as I had seen from your LinkedIn profile also, that you are forging strategic partnerships and meeting with so many of the vendors, as well as the partners to collaborate for this new, I can say, adaptations, as well as staying in the forefront of technological advancement. So could you share a notable example of a strategic partnership that has, had played a significant impact on your product strategy?
Yeah, I think it's just, when we talk about product partnerships, it's about moving away from the traditional.
Yes.
So I think like when I go back to the early days of my career, especially sort of actually even in recent history in retail, the methodology was, hey, we're a large organization, we've got buying power, we want to go to market, and we want the best price. And then we sort of form partnerships with organizations at really low margins, and in the end, no one really benefits. And it's in technology, I believe you've got to move away from that sort of concept. There's no longer about procurement. In technology, you need strong partnerships. And doing strong partnerships, you've got to change the way you work. So it is no longer, we don't refer to, for example, here today in KFC, we don't refer to our partners as vendors. We call them partners. We engage it early on. We treat them as stakeholders. We share our roadmaps with them. But I think it's about making sure that we both set each other up for success. Because once you do that, you've got that transparency, it starts allowing you to start fostering some innovation. So I'll give an example of an organization that one of the partnerships that we've got. So they've been a partner for a number of years. The relationship has been pretty good, but it was very transactional. So they would basically provide us with a product. We pay a license cost every year. They send us an invoice, we pay it, and it's just BAU. But then what we went was like, okay, how do we really start to move this product? And one of the things that we noticed was the roadmap wasn't evolving as fast as we wanted it to. So we changed our approach. We said, look, instead of, let's do a few things. One is the roadmap's not evolving. Every time we want to do something, we start worrying too much about statements of work. We start worrying about contracts. We start worrying about scope, and it's become counterproductive. So we started thinking, how do we unlock that? How do we unlock the teams? What my team wanted is agility. They want to be able to work with a partner without spending 3 months going through documentation. They want the ability to be agile, and they want to be able to fail. But at the same time, how do we bring up that confidence with the partners? So we changed our approach. We said, look, instead of going from transactional, let's actually just build it. Let's go to more of a managed services model. So let's build an agreement. We'll commit to a certain number of development hours, and then we'll make sure we consume it every month, and then let the teams just work together. We want the product managers to just talk about the outcome, let them work through it, let them brainstorm it, let them use agile methodologies, and then let them build. And that actually really changed the way we operate, because all of a sudden, in 2 years, we probably had 1 or 2 features released. And now within the first 3 months of making that change, we had our first enhancement that had about 10, not 10, it was about 4 or 5 new features. So all of a sudden we started getting more output. But on top of that, when that happened, a lot of the noise and a lot of the complaints stopped. And what that allowed was the leadership team to level up to start building stronger relationships. It makes a huge difference because now when we call them, they see us, they also see us as a partner. So I really believe, like in technology and product, you've got to move away from transactional partnerships, and you've got to move away from, hey, we want to get the best price, and think about how do you create a relationship where both organizations benefit and both organizations have skin in the game and are sort of working to the same common goal.
Yeah, that's a wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this, wonderful win-win situations. I can say it's not the profitability of the company only, but profitability for both the parties. And the example you have shared is really, it shows collaborative efforts, not only from you, but from your team, from your organizations, and that can really foster, impactful collaboration. So thank you, Steve, for this wonderful share of journey. So, Steve, as your role also involves, identifying new opportunities. So how do you ensure there's proper adaptations to emerging opportunity, and what strategies are in place to, deliver the evolving product strategy across a diverse region?
Okay, this one's opportunity. there's always opportunities. I think when you work in a large organization, you've got, there's many ways to tackle it. We've got the product teams who are working with the problems every day, and they're putting opportunities on the table. And then we have companies who are building technology from all over the world approaching us with ideas and showing us case studies. And then we have, our leadership team doing the same thing, and the global team is doing the same thing. And I think what's important is to really understand. I think the first step is understanding the problems that the organization has, like really having a deep understanding of where the pain points are, what are the problems, and understand the organizational strategy. But then on top of that, when opportunities come along, it's really being able to quickly look at the opportunity by not ignoring it, and trying to validate really quickly. Does this opportunity or does this idea that someone's putting on the table actually align, one, to the strategy, and does it actually align to the problems or the pain points that we're experiencing? And if it does, it's about now working with those individuals in collaboration to figure out, how much time do you want to explore? So one, with new opportunities, we try not to dismiss them straight away. We need to explore because there could be a genuine benefit for us. But at the same time, it's knowing how much time to spend on it before we move on. Because it becomes impossible sometimes with opportunities. There's just so many ideas out there. But I think the key one for us is, I think what's important in the organization is sometimes, like my role and my team, we work very closely with operations. And operations have a lot of ideas and they bring a lot to the table. And I think what's really important is you can't have the typical mindset that says, hey, we are the product team. You tell us what the problem is and we'll tell you what the technology is. I think there has to be, when opportunities are brought forward, I think you need to respect that these people truly understand the problems that they have and they brought something forward. So you need to take a step back and think about, how do you really help them articulate the problem statement and what the technology is for, and spending time with them to understand why they're bringing these opportunities forward. And then working with them to be able to figure out, is there a potential, like, is this opportunity or is this technology, has it got legs? Is it something that we want to spend a bit more time to explore further? So the key thing for me is not to just dismiss everything that gets put towards me. It's having the conversation with those stakeholders. But then it's also the same when we work across regions, right? Because, I look after SOPAC, but then we have we've got the teams in the US, we've got teams in other regions. It's also working with them to understand what they're doing and what opportunities they have, and see and learn from them. Like for us, the biggest opportunity for us is to look at what other regions are doing. And if they're experimenting, taking those learnings, and that gives you a higher point of validation. It's the same business in a different market.
Yeah, right. So thank you so much for sharing this, perspective. That's a very wonderful perspective you had shared. While, the technology is so much evolving, so to be in the current form, it's wonderful to know about. And Steve, the last questions, before we close this question and answer sessions, can you provide a glimpse of your technological visions, or is there any, specific technologies or areas for digital innovations, e-commerce, or a software development that you foresee playing a crucial role in shaping the next phase of product leadership journey?
So that answer is yes. I can't give specific examples, but our strategy is to become 100% digital. So that's a global strategy, which we say 100% digital. The definition of digital isn't just, it doesn't mean it's just the app, but how do we bring that experience into our restaurant and across the entire organization? So that's sort of the key organizational strategy that we have. And right now, in the future, it's really about aligning not just Australia and New Zealand and also South Pacific. It's how do we align, like our parent company is trying to align every single market to this strategy. I think for us, it's trying to figure out how do we get there, because you have different markets at different maturities. I think here in Australia, we're leading, where we're sort of, we've got unique problems and we're probably got some more advanced technologies, but really the future vision is to become 100% digital.
Oh, that's wonderful, Steve. So, getting ahead with the technology and to meet the customer requirement, that is a more important thing to being a product leadership management or being a manager. So that's a wonderful to know about this. So, Steve, throughout these discussions, from each and every words, I can see your reflections on leadership wisdoms is going to definitely impact with the audience. So, if you don't mind, before we conclude our insightful discussions of today's podcast, I would like to know your thoughts on a leadership journey or leadership principles that, inspired you and that could also inspire our audience too for their journey. So could you please share some of the wisdom nuggets or just a one line to, inspire the audience from your journey?
I think I would say it's when it comes to leadership, it's learning to be yourself and learning to be genuine and treating people the way you want to be treated. I think one of the things my current leader taught me is, hey, it's not like you don't need to put effort into being liked. You don't need to prove yourself. Just be genuine and just take people on the journey with you. And the other part is be a servant leader. So I think that's probably the hardest part, because as we grow up in our careers, we try to sort of build personas and evolve the persona. But I think where I'm at right now, I think the best thing that's worked for me is to just be genuine. And the more genuine and vulnerable I can become, the better of the leader that I find myself becoming.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much for these wonderful words. So, Steve, with this, we are today ending these podcast sessions with you. And I wanted to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you for sharing your expertise and providing us the deep dive into the world of product management. So, to our listeners also, thank you so much for being with us and, listening to the Steve about the product management and his journey. To know more about the Steve, you can directly follow him through his LinkedIn page and his company page, that is a KFC South Pacific. And Steve, thank you so much for being with us today. We are really grateful to have you. And for more insightful conversations, remember to follow ADFARTECH Venture Podcast through all the social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful technological leadership discussions. So thank you so much, and stay inspired, stay motivated, and until next time, this is your host Sonisha, and I'm just signing off from this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.